Hello and welcome to the Dublin Arsenal preview show. I'm your host, Jonathan Giles. On this week's show, I'm joined by Irish Seagulls Brighton fan Pete Baker and regular guest from the UK, Ozzy, to preview our Premier League fixture versus Brighton live on TNT Sports, kick-off at 12:30 p.m. So sit back and enjoy the show. On tonight's show, as I said, I'm joined by a very special guest, and it's much appreciated that you're coming on. Pete Baker from the Irish Seagulls Brighton fan club. How are you, Peter?
All good. Good to be here.
It's great to have you on. Our 31st away guest for a new preview show, so it's great to have it up and running and an actual away fan on it as well. Alan Williamson, are you listening from last season from the Magpie Supporters Club in Ireland? Quite eventful that was, so we see how tonight goes. Should be okay though. And I'm also joined by Carl Ozzy Osborne, our Northampton based UK Gooner. How are you, Carl?
I'm good, mate. I'm very good. After this weekend, very well.
A top of the table clash coming up on Saturday morning. What else could you expect for a Saturday after a long week of work? Absolutely brilliant. I'm going to start off with our guest Pete Baker. Some of Brighton's summer recruits. We'll start with Brighton. Of note, Jorginho Rutter from Leeds United, 40 million. Was quite a shrewd acquisition there last week. And today, Matt O'Reilly, a 25 million acquisition from Celtic. A really good signing there. Other signings of note, Mario Kozier-Dubry from ourselves. Mats Weaver from Feyenoord. Yakuba Minta from Newcastle. From what I've seen of him the last two games, that's a real steal from Newcastle United, I think. Brajan Gruda from Mainz in Germany, and Ibrahim Osman from FC Nordland in Norway. Obviously, a few departures that I put down, Pete. Adnan Lallana was released. I think he's gone back to Southampton. Stephen Alzate was released. Pascal Gross has gone to Borussia Dortmund. And Dennis Undav gone to Stuttgart. Of course, Fabian Herzeuler, 31 Texas-born manager. You must think this is real easy, this Premier League malarkey. Coming to you, Peter. How are you happy enough with the summer signings under your young new manager?
I think I'm delighted. I think the normal model of Brighton was getting in teenagers to bring forward. This season seems to be more, well, let's get some players in that can come in up and running, ready to go, which is a big change. I mean, the money they've spent this season as well it's Chelsea money. It's just quite a shock for us, really.
Yeah.
Well, it was Chelsea's money we're spending.
I have to say, with Jorginho Rutter coming from Leeds and Matt O'Reilly today from Celtic, I say you're quite happy with those two acquisitions. Are you, Pete? They're really two good signings, aren't they?
Yeah, they're really good. I think they're going to be a really good replacement. You know, we've lost Pascal Gross, which, you know, he's our top Premier League goal scorer. He's been our talisman since we got into the Premier League. So I think they're really good replacements for him. Obviously, Matt Weaver was injured for the last game, and obviously Matt O'Reilly's only just started. Time will tell. You know, with the Premier League, you could look great in one league, come to the Premier League, and you look like an amateur. So, but so far, I think the Brighton signings always tend to be good. We don't really tend to get a dud one.
Yeah, Tony Bloom, he picks his managers really well, doesn't he? The likes of Graham Potter, Roberto De Zerbi had a great first season and a bit. I was at the game at the Emirates when he spelled his 3-0 that day, and Albert ended their title challenge. The way I say I'm really excited. Joe Pedro played really well for his last season, but one of our very own here, Evan Ferguson, are you excited? Do you think he'll keep him before the transfer window closes? Do you think?
Yeah, I think they're both going to stay for this season. I don't think there's any plans to move them on. Not really, but I would have thought by now we would have got a replacement in if they were going to go. Rutter probably being the only replacement I could possibly see for João Pedro. Yeah. But I don't see João Pedro leaving this window.
Yeah, that young lad, Yakuba Minta, that you signed from Newcastle, particularly against Everton. From the highlights I watched, he looks really exciting, doesn't he, as a winger? He's a real steal.
He's really good. I mean,
yeah.
Last season we had Adringo, and obviously Adringo's he's going to cover that right wing, and now Minte's come in, and it's kind of, oh, where's Adringo going to fit into all of this? You know, that's good for us to have two right wingers that you can kind of say, well, one's can take over. But Minte, during the pre-season, he was running through defenders like no one's business. I think he struggled a little bit in the last two games in learning how to release the ball and when to play it. But I think, you know, a couple of games coming, a few more games in, and I think he'll be, you know, like Matoma, he'll be flying along, and we'll have both those wings covered.
Yeah, you took another player from ourselves, Mario Cozier Dubry. He's been quite the talent for our underage setup. Are you excited to see where his career develops for you?
Yeah, really excited. I watched I think it was the first game in Japan. He played, he got 2 goals in that. Really exciting. Another really exciting player. And I think that's what I've liked about Brighton's transfers these last few seasons. We're not really kind of getting in, here's a standard player. They're all really exciting. They've all got exceptional talent.
Yeah.
And it's talent that we can build on. You know, we've put Bowenate back out on loan to Leicester for the season. He's another player that's got a lot of exciting skills. So the ability to do that is not something, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, would Brighton be loaning out this kind of talent?
Yeah. It's great. It's some roller coaster you're on, isn't it? The last 4 or 5 years, you know, you've had a great run in Europe, which must have been a dream as a Brighton fan, you know, from where you were with the Whitleen Stadium to that superb stadium at the Amex. How excited are you now with Fabian Hurst? I think Tony Bloom might have picked another one out of the bag for you, hasn't he?
I think it always seems to be he gets a manager that can bring in another level. So I think Graham Potter got us really good on the possession, and then De Zerbi came in, got us really big on the attacking. Last season we seemed to fall off a little bit with the injuries and stuff. And Hurstler seems to have brought in, he's dropped a little bit of the possession, but we can either go possession, we can go direct. He's got a few more tricks up his sleeve, and we can keep seeming to get managers that can bring us to another level, play a different style, but still keep the identity that we've been building on the last 5 years, which I think is, you know, it's exciting. And he's younger than me. It's even more exciting. A young manager younger than me can come in and show the Premier League. He showed United last weekend, you know, exactly what he's made of.
Yeah, just going to your 2 previous results, your first 2 games, 2 from 2, which is great. 3-0 over at Everton with Toma, Welbeck and Adingra, who had all super, you know, the whole team just Goodison Park being the last season there as well. You really upset the apple cart there. But the 2-1 over Man United, Welbeck again, one of former Gooner himself, and Joe Pedro with a great header in injury time. You must be delighted, Pete. Are you at the start? A perfect start for you, isn't it?
It's been a perfect start, and I thought, you know, the Everton game, Sean Dyche has always been the banana skin for Brighton. When he was with Burnley, we could never beat Burnley. You know, they're a tough team. So to go there and win 3-0 convincingly, and then, you know, United at home, they're not the same United when Brighton first came to the Premier League, but at the same time, they're not. You know,
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
we thank VAR this time because I think they got an offside all right.
Got it right. You got it right.
Thank God.
No, it's a good result, and I think that the difference of the tactics with, you know, with Hurstler, where we came against United and we could sit back, we could take a bit of pressure, and we could give the pressure back to them. It was a lot of high pressing, which we didn't get under De Zerbi.
Yeah.
There's still a little bit of that passing out the back, heart and mouth moments where you kind of sit there and go, I don't know where you guys are trying to pass the ball. But there's still a little bit of that going on. That's what I didn't enjoy last season, was that, you know, that was hard to watch.
Yes, there'll be many heart-stopping moments. He's a young coach, but I think he's got a very good background team behind him. He seems to be, for 31 years old, he's miles ahead in terms. He's got a good footballing brain. You can see that tactically. I thought he's probably deserved to beat United. As much as I hate United, I think hands on heart, he's done really well. I have to say, what a great start for you. I'll go to our last two previous meetings against you, Pete. Last December, we won 2-0 at the Emirates. Gabriel Jesus sadly won't be playing on Saturday. He looks like to be out till January, I think. Kai Havertz, a superb goal to win it 2-0. And I think that goal for Havertz, I think, really kick-started the season then. Gave him the confidence to go on and on. He just hasn't looked back. And then last April, of course, at the Amex, it was kind of when the wheels were coming off, I think, for yourselves, when we bet you 3-0, Saka penalty, Havertz, and then that cheeky lob by your ex-player, Leandro Trossard, sealed the win. But from before I come to you, Ozzy, I know you've been waiting a while, but to you, Pete, how do you see the game going on Saturday yourself? What would you like Brighton to do? Would you keep it compact and see can you hit us on the break maybe? Or
Yeah, I think what we did against United would work well. The high press, I watched the game against Villa, and a few times the high press seemed to catch defence out a little bit, trying to play out. I am worried about our fullbacks. Martinelli, Trossard, your wingers, I think, are going to get the better of our fullbacks. So, yeah, try to keep it down the middle. Try maybe go a bit more direct. I think that's where Brighton might get the best out of it.
Yeah, I think if he starts Minta and Adingra on the wings, I think they could give us a lot of problems with their pace. And Cairo Mitoma has always given us problems. He's a really unsung hero, isn't he, for yourselves? He's a simple player, isn't he, Mitoma?
Yeah, and I think it was really disappointing last season with all the injuries, and I don't think he could really get into his rhythm.
Yeah.
But he seems to have started off the season in that rhythm that he had 2 years ago, where he just a nightmare for fullbacks. He's just running them ragged and pulling them in, dragging them back out again. He's fantastic to watch. And with Minte, I think, having the two wingers on either side, we can do the same thing. It will cause Arsenal problems, I think, in the long run. But at the same time, I know our fullbacks aren't great against wing attacks, so
it should be exciting times. I think on Saturday at the early kickouts are always exciting. Hopefully the players are woken up at that stage, but I'm sure Martinelli and co will give them a good waking up, I'm sure, early on. Coming to yourself, Ozzy, we're down to, of course, review our game later on, but against Villa, but 2 from 2 for ourselves. We've always, over the last couple of seasons, aside from the double over Brighton last season, we've always found it tough against Brighton, haven't we? 2 years on, I have to say our squad is a lot better. A lot of teams fear us now, where we kind of fear them. What do you make of Brighton signings this summer, Ozzy?
Well, yeah. I'll start off firstly, I've said this on numerous times about Brighton on podcasts that we've done, Johnny, that, I've always said the best signing Arsenal could make is Brighton's sort of scouting team, because they seem to have a great scouting team out there. They've turned some. They just seem to pull these players out of the bag, don't they? And I think they've done that with this manager as well, right? This manager, I was looking pre-show, I was looking at his sort of history in the sort of youth ranks at Bayern Munich and 1860 Munich. Then he'd been coaching. He's done it the hard way, right? And he's not a big name, and I think, but he's an up and coming star, is absolutely. And I've got, I think we've had a fine start to the season. I think Pete is spot on with his comment about the wingers and the high press, but I think that's what we've done this season as well. So you're going to get two teams that are going to go high press, and it's all in the wingers. Yes. And I look at Matoma, and I made a comment on my sort of show notes about that. Matoma for me is exactly what you said. He was too disturbed last season with, he couldn't get into a rhythm, and we're seeing the Matoma revolt, which we used to fear as well. Right? He's done us over a few times. So I think it's going to be a really interesting game on Saturday. That we're going to have two teams that potentially are going to push each other. But absolutely, we've got Martinelli, Saka, Trossard, depending on who starts. and we're going to be pushing their wing backs as well equally. Ben White and whoever plays at left back is going to have a difficult time, whether it's Zinchenko or Timber. I think they're going to have for wing backs on both sides are going to have a difficult afternoon. One thing I did point out is Welbeck. What a player he still is. Like, we keep writing him off, don't we? He's like, he just keeps coming back. He keeps coming back. I think when he left us, we said we got the best out of him, and then we've seen him at Brighton. But look, Welbeck, he was absolutely brilliant. And I watched the game against United. I think we was all a little bit Brighton that day. If all the Schooners are really realistic with ourselves, we was all a bit Brighton on that day. But Welbeck, he just looks. He he looks solid, right? He's for me, he hasn't sort of, as some of these players do as they age, they sort of just, it's all about position and where they are. But the goals he's scoring, I know he got a tap in. One of them was a tap in, and I saw the ones against Everton. But he had that header that went off the bar as well. He's physical. He's got a finish in him, and you know what? He's doing great. And the fact that he's starting in this team is a credit to him as a professional. I think I think Welbeck is an absolute threat. And against his team, it'd be interesting to see him against Gabriel and Saliba, because they are two physical centre halves. But I think that's going to be a good battle as well. And sort of finally, I sort of watched Pedro as well. Like, I think he's a great sign. I think did you sign 32 million euros from Watford? Is that right? About 30 million.
About that, yeah, 30 million.
Yeah. So again, what a player he's going to be. He's 22, is he? I think something like that. So he again looks a talent, and it's just another player that you've pulled out of the bag, because I guarantee whether you sell him or not, but you're going to make a profit on him. You're not going to lose on him, and that's what's keeping this team fit. So credit to Brighton. What I will say is about Brighton, the little soft spot I've got from myself, I dare say, is because they're doing stuff right. They're doing this right. They're making, they're bringing the players through. They're selling their players, making a profit, and using that profit to invest back in that team. And I think that's fantastic to see. Just from my games against United and Everton, well, Brighton's games against United and Everton, I thought the best sort of chances came from wing players. You rightfully said, Pete. And I think that's going to be, where it's going to be won on Saturday. I'm always applying caution to Brighton when we play them, but we're at home, and if we're serious about the title, we've got to win it. We've got to win our home games, right? So, not being like arrogant or anything like that, but these are the games that we need to win if we're going to be serious about a title. But I won't look forward to going to Brighton away, and I'm certainly not looking forward to coming to Emirates. But I hope we get a result.
I think one of the weak links, for Brighton, is at the back. Van Hecke is, I thought he was terrorised by the Arsenal players home and away. He's kind of, Dunk is a lot more solid, but I think Van Hecke is just, do you agree, Pete? He's just,
I think this season he's starting to show a lot more maturity.
Yeah.
He's shown he can read the ball a lot better. He can read how the ball's going to be coming through. Against United, for me, he was my man of the match, because I think he killed off a lot of those United attacks. He's good at bringing the ball from the back up forward. I think last season, it was in the FA Cup, he came from the back, passed a couple of times, 1-2s, come all the way through, scored a fantastic goal. He's got that ability, and I think he's got a big future ahead of him. He's still only young. He's still 22. He's still young. I think he's been a lot more solid than Dunk has this season so far.
Yeah.
That's, in my opinion, I think Dunk's he was away at the Euros, short break, missed a lot of pre-season. So you kind of see that's missing from him. But I think they do a good partnership. Our defence has always been a problem. Last season was a problem. I think there's still, we didn't buy anyone for defence, which I think was probably our disappointing thing of the transfers. We haven't bought anyone to bulk up that defence a bit. But I think it's all about attack with Hertzler. I think it's
Yeah.
It's
Is that Hinshelwood going to play left back? Is it? Will he start the first two
talent,
games?
doesn't he, Ozzy? Yeah,
he does look a good talent, and the only thing I will say he's going to be up against Saka. So is that and having Dunk play on that side as well? That's where I can see us getting in. But we need Saka to be on his top dollar as well, But yeah,
but
I
think his own man Paul Hinswood actually played for Brighton, didn't he, back in the day?
Yeah, the Hinshelwood family have a big history with Brighton and playing with them. Granddad did as well. They were, the Hinchwoods were involved a lot with, getting the Amex and standing behind Brighton when we had no stadium.
Yeah.
So, I think Jack Hinchwood is a fantastic footballer anyway. I think he showed that last season before his injury what he was capable of. He's not a natural left back. He's a midfielder. So, yeah, I think against United and Everton, you could see the weaknesses struggling. You could see he could get turned easily. For United's goal, you're seeing how quickly he got turned and completely lost where he was. Pervis Estupiñán could be back in time for the Arsenal game, but he's had no match preparedness. So yeah, I would say
it's a gamble, isn't it? Whatever you do, you either gamble and play him without no minutes against Saka, or you stick with what you got, don't you? It's a toughie, isn't it?
Yeah, there's Igor. Igor can play at left back, so
Igor, he's got players.
He's had not much pre-season. I know he's been playing mostly coming off the suspension pre-season, so I would say you'd be looking at Hinshelwood at left back.
Okay. Another good player I like from his as well. I watched him at the Emirates a couple of years ago in that 3-0 defeat. Julio Enciso. He's really good talent, isn't he?
Oh, he's great talent, and again, last season a lot of injuries, and not last season, at the end of the season before, the goal against City, the goal against Chelsea, 2 wonder strikes outside the box, and I think if he can get proper match fit and get a few games under his belt, I think he could really help. We discussed that, Brighton's goals and where we've done well is from the wing. And I think having Enciso, someone who can strike that kind of ball from outside the box, just brings that third threat. And it means that, we can move the ball around a bit more in an attacking half.
Yeah, as Ozzy pointed out, attacking wise, you're really exciting when you have a full strength team. You still have Evan Ferguson to come back as well,
They got people off the bench as well. Yeah. I think that's a difference as well. What I saw with Brighton.
Yeah, that's a huge thing to have in the Premier League. Yeah, and it's just what really I admire about Brighton. Your style of football is really good to watch as a neutral, but the way you keep losing top players and replacing them with younger players, but can even reach that level so quickly, it's just amazing business Tony Bloom is doing, isn't it? And even manager-wise, you've gone through so many, but they keep that style of football, don't they?
Yeah, I think it's because we always know a bigger club will come along for a player. And rather than, I think where, say, Southampton had that level when they were constantly getting good players in. They kept selling them, but they never had a replacement for them. And I think that was eventually their downfall.
Yeah.
And I think Brighton have said, look, it's going to happen to us regardless. Caicedo went, McAllister went, Basuma went, Cucurella went. We know that's going to happen. So it's always a case of when we know we've got a star coming up, well, there's somebody sitting in the background waiting to go. When Trossard went to Arsenal, we knew we had Matoma there, and that's why there was no hesitation. It was like, you want to go, we have the replacement for you straight away.
It's a great luxury to have, isn't it? He seems to be one step ahead, Tony Bloom, in every department at Brighton, isn't he? He did, there's a quote here in one of the pre-season mags when it was in the papers. The professional gambler once said, I believe in betting aggressively and occasionally. To win big, you have to risk losing. And kind of stands by the man, doesn't it? He's risked big, but he's got big rewards from it, hasn't he?
Yeah, and look, he's from the moment he took over the club, back down in League One. You know, you kind of go. He knew the direction he wanted to take it. He knew what he wanted Brighton to be. You know, we got a lot of flack when Chris Hughton got sacked, you know, because he kept us up so many times, and people were like, well, that's not very loyal. But Chris Hughton doesn't play the style of football that we do now. And I think the direction was always, this is where we're going to be, and we will get the right people to do it. And there was no Chris Hughton, you did a bad job, you did a great job, kept us in the Premier League, kept us going, and it was just time to move forward. And I think then Graham Potter came in, and, you know, it's just been a rollerball since then. And Tony Bloom and Paul Barber, the chairman, you know, they know what they're doing. They know, it's like they can see in the future. They know what's coming. They know what's going to happen next, and they can plan for it.
Yeah, it's uncanny, really, isn't it? Because you always bounce back, you know, and you always have a player, as you said, waiting in the wings that is in that for that position. It's just a perfect fit at most of the time, isn't it? Like another player that I think is out injured. Correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry, Pete. Sonny Marsh.
Yeah,
he is as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's been in Brighton since a teenager. From Crawley.
Yeah.
Sonny March has always been a favourite of mine. I mean, the speed of him, he terrorizes fullbacks. And I think up until De Zerbi, he was always played out of position. He wasn't never really utilised properly. He was played as a wing back, I think, quite a lot under Potter. And once he was just told, right winger, you're just going to play forward and you're going to keep going forward. You know, I think De Zerbi did really good stuff for him.
Yeah.
And two horrific injuries, you know, I feel bad for him.
Yeah.
Now with Adringa and Minte, you know.
Yeah.
I love the guy, but I can see it really hard for him to come back from this, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is a talent, though. Yeah, he's a good squad player, but it's sad the way injuries. Just kind of like ourselves, Ozzy, with Gabriel Jesus, so much potential. He has a great season, and then all of a sudden, as the season starts, what do you think that is yourself, Ozzy, with Jesus? Is he overworked, or is it just a niggling injury that is always going to keep reoccurring?
I just think players like Jesus, he's worked so hard in pre-season. You got a feel for the guy, hasn't he? He's got himself really good shape, and I think he's finally tuned when they're pushing themselves those limits to try and get that extra 10%. I think they put themselves up for injury, right? And I think and that's what happens when he's pushing himself. He knows this is a season he's got to break through, right? And I think that's probably, you know, maybe was pushed hard too soon. I don't know, but it's a groin again, isn't it? Right? We had he was riddled last season. These groin issues. He had an operation and all sorts. So yeah, it's the same. Like we've got to say with Tomiyasu, it keeps happening, doesn't it? And you know, I think some players just go through that. Like you look at Thomas Partey. I don't think he had a single game injured, did he? For Atletico Madrid, he was injured once. But he comes to us and he's in and out of the team, right? So you know, is that because they're having to push up to the next level? I don't know. Is more expected than us? I don't know. But you got to look at that, haven't you? But look, it is what it is, and you have to deal with it, and that's what you do as a club, right? So we probably need to go to the market and get another attacker because it looks like Eddie is off.
Yeah.
Jesus is gone. There's talk of January, isn't there? No one's actually confirmed that, but so yeah, we'll just see. It depends if you have an operation or not. So, but we will be short in that area. But look, we've got what we've got on Saturday, so let's just see what we can do with what we've got. We've still got plenty of quality on that bench to come in and fill in for that. It's just what happens when the Champions League matches start coming along. That's when you need a bigger squad.
Yeah, and I think the good thing actually in your favour, Pete, for Brighton's sake this season, with Husler being a new manager, no European football, which means he can work on playing every just weekend, Saturday to Saturday. You know, I think where do you see yourselves? I say personally, I think you'd finish a lot higher than mid-table. Where do you see the season going yourself, Pete?
Well, I mean, I'd like for us to win it. I don't like to win it, but,
never know. You're at there at the moment.
I think realistically, I think we could be looking top 6, probably either just scraping in the Europa League or I think Conference League. I think is definitely reachable target. I think the club itself would probably be targeting, we saw Villa do it last season.
Exactly.
They got Champions League. And
Newcastle as well, they did a similar sort of thing as well, didn't they? So there's a chance.
There's no harm in saying, well, look, let's go for Champions League, and if Champions League doesn't come, there's the Europa and there's the conference to follow.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. I think top six definitely.
Yeah, that's a fair shout.
It's a young, hungry squad, but I think the additions, I'd be really excited as a Brighton fan. Matt O'Reilly has had a great 2 seasons under Brandon Rodgers, and Reuter, I think, will only go on strength to strength. He's the striking capabilities. I think Husler knew him from the German league, Henry. I think that's why he signed him. 40 million was a bit eye-watering, but I thought he had a really good season for Leeds last year. And I think you're going to have an exciting season under him. Could I get your prediction, Pete, for Brighton Arsenal Saturday? While you're heading the line.
I think this is going to be. I think it'll be an end-to-end. Probably looking at, I would say 2-2.
Yeah,
be my prediction.
Yeah.
I just think whoever's in the lead in the last 10 minutes is going to concede a goal, because both teams just, from what I've seen on Saturday, both teams playing very similar. They're both they're not going to give in.
Yeah.
They're going to fight for every bit of possession. So I would go with a draw. In realistic, by heart, I would say we could top it 3-2.
You can't beat an optimistic man. Definitely worth a gamble, I think, Pete. Stick a few quid on it. I don't want to come to Ozzy. Put your head in the block, Ozzy.
Well, I think me and Pete built this up to be a 6-all, didn't we? We're saying about his high press and wing play, but look, I've said 2-1 right to this, and I've gone in there to 2-1. That's my heart talking as well, because bless Johnny. Johnny's coming all the way over for this, so we can't send him home with just a point, can we? but yeah, 2-1. I think 2-2's fair shout. I think it's going to be a great game, regardless, and it's a bit of an advert for the Premier League watching. This Saturday at 12:30, but it's a 12:30 kickoff on a Saturday, and we don't normally do well on them. So yeah, never know. But yeah, 2-1 for me, Arsenal.
Yeah, I think I'll go with hand on heart. I think 2-0. I think be a fair result for ourselves at home. I could be proven wrong, Pete. You might get back to me next week about this, but I'm going to go 2-0. I think we're in such really good form, and David Ray is unbeatable at the moment. But I think it will be a very close game. As a neutral, I think it'll be a cracking game. I'd just like to wish Pete Baker the very best for the season, Pete. It was a pleasure having you on from the Irish Seagulls, Irish Brighton Supporters Club. I'd like to thank Carl Ozzy Osborne. Thanks for coming on for our second show, Ozzy.
Great to meet you, Pete.
Pleasure meeting you, Pete.
Between you guys.
As always, check us out on our Dublin Arsenal YouTube channel. So until next week, have a great week and see you then.
Come on, you Gunners.
Seagulls.